Hour number 2 in full effect right here on the early line, and a solo mission looks to be completed now. Did you have fun in hour number 1? I did. Did you have fun in hour number 2 to start it? Absolutely. But sometimes we got to talk to the experts here to get some information on the WNBA back in our live. How about this? Senior writer from Winsider with us today, and that is Miles Ehrlich. Miles, thanks for joining us here on a Thursday. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, Donnie, it's great to see you. Great to see you.
Fantastic. Let's get right down to it. The Olympics itself, before we get to the actual basketball, how did you enjoy those 2 weeks? Because for me, sometimes you enter the Olympics not knowing what to expect. I love the fact that the Olympics was on in that time frame for us East Coasters to watch it in the morning and the afternoon and then sort of catch up at night. What did you enjoy outside of basketball in the Olympics, and how did it treat you there with Paris?
I think that that's my favorite thing about the Olympics is that there are sports that I've never watched before that I'm going to fall in love with every 4 years. I think the rugby 7-on-7 was it for me this year, but also the basketball 3-on-3. Both of those were just sports that I'm not used to watching in that kind of volume or that time of day, and I enjoyed them both.
Yeah, it was a good time watching all the way through. Even if breakdancing is not going to appear for the 2028 Olympic run, it had a great run over there in Paris. And we can always think, what if we saw that on U.S. soil? But I enjoyed the track and field, the pool. Everything was fantastic, which includes, Miles, Team USA, both men's and women's, coming away with the gold medal here. Now, from a men's perspective, yeah, we anticipated, but we thought they might get some fights along the way. The question was always, what sort of fight were we going to get from the women's side of the competition? We were asking just about every guest, Miles, coming on, saying, do you think anybody is going to be able to stay at least in that single-digit range of Team USA? And you take a look at beating Japan, beating Belgium, Germany, and Nigeria, along with Australia easily, and they got up to France. Before we get to the final game against France, coming into the Olympics for you, Miles, the expectations for Team USA, we know it was gold medal, but what were you anticipating before the team actually played a game in Paris?
I was thinking it was going to be most of what we saw in that tournament run. The world, I think, is getting closer, is catching up a bit, and there's so much W talent that's spread around the world now, but you're still looking at this Team USA roster, which is the best of the best, which took on Team WNBA at the All-Star game before they left U.S. soil. So they got pushed there. They lost that game, but that's still how much of a gulf there is between this USA roster put together and the rest of the world. But wow, that final was something else. And I think that that's what happens when you go to the host country and you're playing a road game in something that should feel like a neutral site, is anything can happen.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, too, because obviously we're rooting for Team USA to win, and win easy is always nice. But in the back of your mind, like, can't we just at least get a game so we can enjoy this a little bit more? And Team France coming right out of the break in the second half, taking control, is like, oh, my goodness, can Team USA come back? But they were fantastic down the stretch. The one thing I do enjoy is, away from the NBA and the WNBA, the physicality of the international sport is so much fun to watch, and how these ladies handled it. I thought it was great. And right down to the wire, beating France, getting the gold medal. Now we turn our attention, Miles, to 2028. We know there's going to be changes to that roster, but as you said, the rest of the world catching up was just great. Now the Olympics come to U.S. soil. What are the expectations and maybe what that roster is going to look like in 2028?
So the expectations are going to be 9 straight golds, right? That is the standard, and I think that that's some of what we saw in that final game is all these players knew that that was what they were playing for, was to bring home 8. You don't want to be the one that loses that streak. So 2028 is super exciting. It's going to be the first time, presumably, without Diana Taurasi in 7 Olympics. But there are going to be some spots there. And we're seeing the growth of women's basketball right now stateside. And names like Caitlin Clark, like Angel Reese, like Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers will all be in the mix, I'm pretty confident, 4 years from now. And you're still going to have Prime Stewie and Prime Asia and Nafisa Collier. So I think that those 3 are the core that's going to move forward. But you look at just so many players that made impacts, especially in that final game, in Kalia Copper, in Kelsey Plum, in Sabrina Ionescu. So I think that they're going to have a really strong foundation, a really strong core, and they're going to add to it with some of this exciting next generation.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I think the women's game certainly is on solid footing now, because anytime the world starts to get better, that means the WNBA has to get better, the U.S. has to get better. It makes for compelling basketball, and we certainly got that from the home team there in France in that game, which quite frankly, through the majority of that game, it's like, boy, you're expecting Team USA to pull away. They were never able to do that, and coming back from a double-digit deficit in the second half to get gold makes that a little bit more special. But before you know it, we're like, man, The WNBA, Miles, is going to take off an entire month. That's crazy. They're just going to disappear from our imagination, and poof, here they are with a triple header tonight. Before we get to some of those games, the expectations for the second half and some players to watch that we're going to take a look at, who might they be for you?
So the first player that I want to talk about actually is not in the WNBA as of now. It's Gabby Williams, who very nearly pulled off an upset in that France gold medal game. Gabby has said that she's willing to come to the W. She's been in the W the last few years, but took off to prioritize France. And we saw what she did. She put that team on her back, and she has announced that there are, or it has been reported that 3 teams are interested in her services: the New York Liberty, the Seattle Storm, and the Minnesota Lynx. Sorry, not the Minnesota Lynx, the Storm, the Mercury. The Mercury were the third one. So the 3 of them are trying to get Gabby over, and those are 3 teams that are in playoff contention. Where Gabby lands can really help any of those rosters. And then the other player in New York I wanted to focus on was Breanna Stewart, because something's still going on with her shot. She's a career 35% three-point shooter, which is right about league average. But this season, she's shooting just 23% from deep on 4.2 attempts per game. Her 2-point percentage is the second highest in her career, the highest since her first MVP season in 2018. But in the Olympics, Stewie made just 4 of 14 shots, which is 29%. So I'm really interested to see what happens with Breanna Stewart's outside shot, because I think that could limit what the Liberty can do in making a deep run.
We'll get to some more questions here in the next segment, but quickly here, I see you have the Minnesota Lynx as the team to watch, 17-8 on the season, only behind the Liberty and the Sun. What can we expect out of the Lynx here in that second half of the season?
They have the easiest strength of schedule going forward. They face the Aces twice, the Liberty, Sun, and Mercury once each. But these top 5 teams are all going to be trying to avoid that 4-5 matchup. So it's the Liberty, the Sun, the Lynx, the Storm, and the Aces as we hit the break. But having that easiest strength of schedule can help Minnesota try to find one of those top 3 spots so that they can hopefully get some home court advantage. And the season for the second half.
More Miles Ehrlich next with us right here on the Early Line. WNBA back in effect, and we're going to talk about it once again right here on the Early Line with senior writer from Winsider, Miles Ehrlich. And let's get right to it. Like, we're hunting here. You got the Liberty, the Sun, the Lynx, the Storm, and the Aces all up top. If I asked you your championship prediction today before the quote-unquote second half starts up here, who's that going to be for you, Miles?
So this is always my least favorite question. It was not an issue until the Liberty were contenders, because that is the team that I cover locally. That is my home market. And they have been the best team throughout the first half of the season. But I think I still need to say the Las Vegas Aces, because they're going for this unprecedented three-peat. It hasn't been done since the first 3 years of the league. And they still have jaWilson, who's running laps around everybody else as the best player in the world. So right now, it's kind of one of those scenarios where I think we saw this. The comparison I can make on the men's side is when we just saw LeBron running roughshod through the Eastern Conference for a decade. It feels like that's what A'ja is doing to the entire WNBA. She is by far the best player in the league, and they are returning 4 Olympians home from that Team USA roster, a third of that roster. That's just how built they are for it. Until somebody dethrones them, I say the Aces are the team to beat.
I agree with you, too. I mean, anytime, like, you can just go down low to jaWilson anytime you want, and she can dominate. That is an unbelievable player to have on your side when you're looking to hunt down championships here. Now, from a Rookie of the Year perspective, we're obviously still looking at Caitlin Clark here. Look at her season statistics here. Points per game, 17 points. Assists per game, 8 points. Rebounds, close to 6 per game. And seemed like she was getting better as the years going on. She got a nice little break here. Didn't have to play in the Olympics. Now she's back for the second half. Talk to me about this Rookie of the Year candidate, what we can expect over the second half of the season.
Sure. I think what's been most impressive is that it has not been the runaway race for Rookie of the Year that we expected. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have both really exceeded expectations. I think that their shooting percentages are lower than we might have expected. They're both around 40%. But when you look at the effective field goal percentage with Caitlin, that bumps up because of all those long threes she takes. But for her to be leading the league in assists while also putting up 17 points a game, while also having Indiana in position for a playoff spot as of now. And then you look at Angel and that was a full rebuild in Chicago, and that they're in a playoff position as well. And that Angel is right now neck and neck with not just jaWilson for leading the league in rebounding, but for the best rebounding season in the WNBA all time. That's pretty awesome. I just think that what Caitlin is doing like you said, she's at the top of all these categories, is just pretty remarkable. And she keeps on getting better, and she's putting up these record performances that we're now seeing her get more comfortable, which is what we thought we would see. But the chemistry building, especially with Aaliyah Boston, and the fact that both of these players were able to take a break for 3 weeks after coming straight from college, straight from that tournament, and going right into training camp, I think is huge. And this second half, we should see the best.
And also, let me ask you this quick question, too. Like, we had a long layoff, which you don't usually get during a professional basketball season. What are the expectations from the players coming right back to it? And also, what are these expectations on the schedule here? Back-to-backs, tight environments that you're playing in. Do we expect clean basketball right out of the gate, or could we see some upsets here?
So I would probably expect clean basketball only because these are rosters that have been together. Yes, they might be missing one or two players, but they've largely been practicing the last couple of weeks. And I think that especially these young teams have had that time and that synergy to work together, as opposed to training camp where a lot of them are coming together for the first time. So yeah, you're going to be okay if you're plugging in a Jewel Lloyd or an jaWilson or a Brianna Stewart. You'll be all right. All those secondary players are staying ready to go, and I think they're all going to just kind of hit the ground running.
Your team to watch in the second half here, the Minnesota Lynx, record 17-8 points per game, 81 per game against 75. Their title odds now sit at an 8-1 price. They're playing tonight against the Washington Mystics as a heavy favorite. There are two other games on the schedule tonight. The New York Liberty and the Sparks are going to play at 9 p.m., but also a key game here, the Phoenix Mercury and the Chicago Sky. A slight favorite for the Mercury here. What can you tell me about that Mercury Sky game you're looking forward to watching? And also, maybe who might win that basketball game?
Yeah, in this game, I lean the Chicago Sky for all those reasons I just said, that they've got this young team that has been able to practice together, but also Phoenix is bringing back Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Kalia Copper were all on Team USA. Beck Allen unfortunately suffered an injury before the Olympics and is going to be out. So that's 4/5 of their starting lineup that is going to be likely somewhat compromised, because this is also the first half back-to-back, because they're playing the Fever tomorrow as well. So they're starting with 2 games on the road with an older roster and with all of this travel from Paris in front of them. So I really like the Sky in that matchup tonight.
How about that? The WNBA back in our lives in a big way. Thanks for joining us this morning, senior writer from Winsider, Miles Ehrlich. Miles, let the people know where they can catch you quickly.
Sure. I'm at Miles Ehrlich on Twitter, and that's mostly where I'm posting.
Thanks for the time. We appreciate it. We'll be right back.